So, once again, let's talk about Star Wars. And it seems the internet world is finally catching up to my concerns that I had over 5 or 6 years ago. If you look out there and do a quick search on Star Wars, you'll see a lot of articles where after the latest announcement of having the Game of Thrones writers and the creators of the show, they've been assigned their own new series of Star Wars movies. And the question that's come up that I have asked many a times is, are we having too much Star Wars in too short of a time? And what I mean by that, and I think I mentioned this in an earlier video, is that once Disney announced that they were going to purchase Star Wars from Uncle George, they were going to spit out three more movies, episodes 7, 8, and 9, as well as the side stories. And since then, we've already had three movies. We've had episodes 7 and 8, and we've had Rogue One. And now, as we can see, Solo's coming out in less than 6 months, and they've already started work on episode 9. And they've already announced that the director of The Last Jedi is going to have his own new trilogy. And then now the new release that the Game of Thrones guys are going to have their own series of movies. And I mean, this is all perceived to be. I mean, you're looking at a good dozen movies over the next 10 plus years. Definitely going the approach of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The only problem is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has had 50 to 60 years of different characters and different storylines
Oh,
to
wow.
fall back on,
Woo!
where
Feels good to be
the Star Wars
all
expanded
right.
universe has been around since about the early 1990s, but it really hasn't had the level of attention and care and detail as the Marvel Universe. A lot of people know who, Spider-Man, Hulk, Iron Man, and Thor, and whoever have you. When it comes to Star Wars, pretty much people are aware of Luke, Han, Leia, Darth Vader, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Only
Now
a
we're
very
having
limited
trouble.
number of
Yep.
folks,
All
and
clear.
and
Let
so
me give you
far,
something.
the most three recent movies have been focused on some level of that. Obviously, with Episode 7 or 8 hitting the Skywalker timeline, but Rogue One is still essentially an offshoot of Episode 4. Uh, the only my biggest concern here is that are we going to get too much in too little time, and is the quality going to suffer because we're churning out these movies so quickly. Um, you know what you can say about the original prequel, whether you liked it or not, I wasn't a huge fan of it, but at least you know, given 3 years in between each of the movies, uh, he still it generated a fervor as far as wanting to see the next movies. Episode 1 came out, everybody kind of went, "Huh, what the hell is this?" But within 3 years, you kind of like, okay, I can't wait till episode 2 comes out, and episode 2 comes out, you're out there in droves, and then episode 2 came out, you kind of like, okay, this was all right, but then you had to wait 3 more years for episode 3. Once again that hunger, that passion has gone back up again. My fear is with all these movies coming out yearly and almost several times a year. Um, are we going to see interest start to die down? A sort of over Star Wars, kind of a consumer. For lack of a better term, Star Wars out. Decrease in satisfaction here. If you want to use economic terms. Uh, if that happens, then what is Disney going to do when the returns of Episode 7 brought in 2 billion, and Rogue One brought in 1 billion, and Episode 8 brought in 1.5 billion. What happens when those numbers start to drop into the sub billion numbers, to where they're spending $200 million and they're only getting 300 back? Is Disney gonna abandon the IP altogether? I highly doubt that, because it still makes a lot of money. But I think the term I'm thinking is a customer fatigue. When you see something coming out every 5 minutes, you kind of just like, okay, another Star Wars movie coming out, so on and so forth. And I can give some examples where customer fatigue has come around. Um, I think one that comes to mind when I was younger was I think it was like the Police Academy movies, um, where the first one was very enjoyable. Then after a couple years, you had the second one, and before you know it, like the next four movies came out like every year, and they all got increasingly bad, to the point where you just didn't want to see it anymore. Um, and I'm sure there are plenty more examples out there, especially when you start thinking of like the Friday the 13th, the Nightmare on Elm Street,
New
where they were
recruits,
starting to
they make me
turn
despair.
these out
No
quite
discipline,
frequently,
no
and the
timing.
movies were
Maybe
just
if I had some
just
music for
not
them to
good. I
march to,
think
it'd help. So,
if you want to
are you going to
preserve
stand there like
the
a 40
IP
droid, or are you
for
going to
an
get some
extended
for
amount
me?
of time, um, you gotta take it with some love and care. And some of the ideas that come to mind is
Good. Go and
and
get me a bigger
particularly
car with music on it.
with
Hop to
the
it.
new trilogy from the director of The Last Jedi, Ryan Johnson, set it up with something outside of the Skywalker timeline. I think that's what they've already said, but
A
um,
music data card.
keep it
Yes,
as
that's
far as
exactly what I
possible
need.
away.
Okay,
And I'm
let's
not
give
talking
this a
about having
try.
something to do with the Empire, or but you maybe
No,
start at the beginning
stop
of the
that.
Jedi
You're meant to
Order,
be marching.
thousands and
You
thousands of years
cease
ago,
gyrating.
something like that, or do
Hopefully,
something thousands
this
and thousands of
overly
years
generous
later.
gift will
Just do
inspire
something
you to get the
different.
right music next time.
Um, and in the case of the guys from Game of Thrones, uh, doing Star Wars, I'm a huge fan of Game of Thrones. I think they've done a phenomenal job, but I think it's pretty much obvious to see that these guys are great adapters of written works, and when it comes to developing their own original material, that's a very big weakness for them. And we can see that in the most recent seasons of Game of Thrones. The first four or five were very, very well put together and well thought out. But as we saw in the most recent season, it showed a lot of weakness. And these guys as creating new material. Things were just scattered around, and things just didn't make any sense. And you can watch an episode and kind of pick it apart to death, because things were just flat out wrong. And if you want these guys to create content for Star Wars, I can see the exact same things happening, and we don't want that. We don't want bad product. And I think ultimately this is my plea to Disney, since they're obviously going to keep this property forevermore, and they're doing their best to make money. Is, guys, you know, take care of the property. Take your time with it. Don't say, okay, we're just going to churn out a movie just because we know it's going to make money. We're going to churn out TV shows just because we know people are going to watch. Your audience isn't stupid. We're not going to watch it just because you put the word Star Wars on it. Now, granted, initially we are going to watch it, but if it doesn't make sense, if it doesn't hit our core beliefs of the show, it's not going to work. We're not going to watch it anymore. And once you've hit that level of bad quality multiple times, then you've kind of lost us altogether as an audience. And I really, really don't want that for this particular brand. Um, I've watched this show, for over the past 40 years. Um, and I've seen it do a lot of things, and I have great memories of Star Wars as a kid and as an adult, spending time with my family as a young adult, as a young child, and spending time with my own children seeing Star Wars. We all have our own particular fond memories. I've gone down to Disney World on Star Wars weekends and watched the parades and experienced that multiple times. I'm excited for the new Star Wars land coming in Disney World in the upcoming years. This is a beloved property, and I just don't want you guys to screw it up. Please, Disney, take care of this. So, uh, what do you think of Disney? Are they doing too much too soon? Do you think they should step back and watch and try and take better care of Star Wars? Or do you think what they're doing is just fine? Do you think you can't have there's no such thing as too much Star Wars? Let me know. Post that in the comments below. Anyway, I'm out of here, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.